Hello! Welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg, and today's guest is Andrew Degregorio. This man is an author. He is an intuitive counselor, and in this conversation, we dive deep into his near-death experience, which occurred on a surfboard. And then he talks about how his life completely transformed as a consequence of that experience. He had a brain injury. He started seeing very interesting things in the world, literally. And he dove deep into healing, personal development. He found energetics, and he talks a lot about good energy, about manifestation, about healing and trauma and the nervous system. The man is kind of a witch. He is, he's very eloquent. He's very mysterious in a sense. A few times during our conversation, he points out something in me that I was feeling that was oddly accurate and somewhat disarming. So yeah, this is a good one. You're going to dig his work. As mentioned later, he wrote a book. I've included links to that in the show notes, as well as the book that he recommended everybody read. So you can check that out too. Thanks for being here. Thanks for spreading the word. And without further ado, here is Andrew Degregorio. This episode is brought to you by Cured Nutrition. Cured is the leader in CBD supplementation with an entire line of products designed to take your everyday life to its ultimate potential. Their daily staples are formulated with an in-house clinical herbalist, which has taken the traditional CBD regimen to an entirely new level of optimization. If you're anything like me, you like waking up feeling good and living well. You've probably toyed around with the idea of finding healthy alternatives to jumpstart your morning. Personally, it's why I start my day with Cured Rise, which is their focus supplement. It's a powerhouse blend of functional mushrooms like lion's mane and cordyceps, broad spectrum CBD, and powerful adaptogens. It gives me clean, clear, and sustained energy without any of the caffeine jitters or crash that I get with coffee. After I get going, Aura is next. It's another blend of functional mushrooms, CBD, and adaptogens, but it's got a twist. We all know how important it is to sustain our immunity nowadays, and this covers all of my bases. The vitamin D, prebiotics, crucial antioxidants are delivered straight to the gut, which is the foundation of our emotional and physical health. Am I right? Second brain. It's where the majority of our serotonin production and immune function begin, or it keeps everything in check, performing at its best. So I have one less thing to worry about, and I obviously cannot forget Zen. I use it every night. It is certainly why it has become Cure's #1 selling relaxation and sleep product. You know the long nights spent tossing and turning? Yeah, not with this stuff. It has ingredients like reishi mushroom, ashwagandha, magnesium, passion flower, broad spectrum CBD. So thankfully, restlessness is something of the past. Cured Nutrition products are your answer for a daily dose of health. Visit curednutrition.com. That's CURED nutrition.com. Be sure to use the coupon code LOVEBOMBS, and at the checkout you will save 10% off your order. All right, man. Let's do a podcast. Andrew Degregorio, welcome to the podcast. And I feel, in full transparency, I need to admit that we had a call a couple of weeks ago, and I remember it ended, and I was like, yeah, man, that's a great topic, great question to dive into. And then my brain should know better by now, but I told myself, oh yeah, I'll totally remember that. And I did not.
I don't remember either.
I don't remember either, but it was a really good conversation, man. But let's start just with who you are. So for those listening who have never heard of you, that don't know who Andrew is, like, how do you describe yourself? What are you, like, what's your deal?
Well, I can't tell you who I am, but I can tell you what I do.
Okay.
How I describe myself. So, some people would actually describe me as like a healer or energy worker, coach. I have like on my website, it says like intuitive counselor, intuitive coach, or something like that, right? So I do some coaching work, healing work. These are things that I do in my practice right now. Typically, I'm working with healers and coaches and entrepreneurs that come to me. It's what I'm currently doing. I'm deeply connected to being of service. I found that to be, why I'm here, and I love supporting people. I love humans. I love this journey. So it's I didn't know I'd be doing what I'm doing, but a lot of it's based in energy, right? Like that's my focus, like the energetics. I'm highly sensitive to energies. Like I feel energetics. I feel the energy when someone's talking. I feel the energy flows in my body. And one of the biggest realizations I've had on my journey so far of healing and doing the inner work that I've been doing is that the energy behind the action is what really, really matters. That's what's generating our reality. And that's my focus. So how do I operate from wholeness? How do I operate from love and generate that type of reality, a reality of well-being, and not bring more fear or more suffering into the world? So I'm just kind of flowing and seeing where the energy takes me, and it's been fucking epic.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That's you're just like a ball of energetic light moving through the hyperloop, trying to create some good in the world.
Yeah, that's a good description. Yeah, totally. I like that.
I do recall part of our conversation last time was around how do you discover yourself, like your true self underneath the various layers of identity. So I might just park that for a moment because my brain was like, I think it was that. But I know you have an interesting story about how you got transformed from a surfer guy into an energetic ball of light moving through the vastness. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that background?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I can't claim to be a surfer guy. I was surfing. I was just kind of new to surfing. I was doing stand-up comedy at the time, and I love comedy, and I enjoyed performing. I was doing it for a few years, and I was working in sales, just trying to figure out life. So before I got into this work, that's what I was doing. And like I said, right now I'm trying to bring more love into the world and, operating from a place of, well-being. Back then I was operating in fear before I got into this work, before I kind of got on this path, and I was, really lost, right? Kind of that story of conditioning, right? Trying to figure out what to do, where to go, who to be, who am I, not knowing how to create financial stability, not knowing how to have healthy relationships, right? Just kind of lost, trying to figure myself out. Until one day I was in the ocean, I was surfing, and there was these two guys off in the distance behind me, and I could tell they were about to collide. And I thought one might hit me, so I dove deep down into the water. And I stayed down there for a moment. I popped my head up, and one of the guys didn't have a leash on his board. And the wave took the board and it speared me in the back of my head, and it knocked me out. So I came to, I was under the water, and something kind of jolted me up. I don't know if it's adrenaline or something, just kind of brought me back up under the water, and I threw myself on top of my board. And, I was kind of muttering the word help, trying to get somebody to notice me. And I couldn't really speak well at that moment. And I knew I was in a lot of trouble because there's no way I was going to get back to the shore. A woman off in the distance saw what happened. She came over and she towed me to shore and saved my life, which was, I'm deeply grateful for, because I'm here today speaking to you. And didn't get a chance to thank her. And so it's just, if one day she hears this, I'm so grateful. And I ended up going to the hospital. They took a scan of my brain. They found that I had 3 bleeds. I had 2 in the front and 1 in the back. So the board hit me so hard that my brain bounced on the front of my skull and the back of my skull. And I had no idea your brain could bounce, which is pretty wild. So after this accident, I went home. The next day, they kept me overnight because it was pretty serious. And I had post-concussion syndrome. And basically, it was an array of all sorts of symptoms, like migraines, personality changes, headaches. There was speech problems. I had PTSD from the accident and insomnia. And the doctors, they weren't really helping me. They were basically prescribing me all sorts of medications and kind of treating symptoms. And, I never felt any better. I just got worse and worse and worse. Now, the company I was with in sales at that time, they actually fired me when I was on disability. So now I lost my job on top of having a brain injury. And I lost the doctors I was working with. I had to switch to government medical insurance. So I had to switch doctors. So I was under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, feeling pretty lost, just absolutely miserable. And this went on for about 4 months. And then I just hit rock bottom, where I was just like, I began to reflect on my life. I started looking back, and I saw all these relationships that kept repeating themselves, starting the same, ending the same, just with different people, like deep heartbreak that was being repeated, a lot of loss, just kind of like this strange realization that I've been stuck in these loops of repeat. So it was just kind of odd, right? And, financially couldn't really get my bank account where I wanted it. Couldn't create stability and money. And just like, I just remember saying to myself, like, this sucks. Like, is, life only about suffering? Like this, it can't be true. Like that would be ridiculous. Right. So I remember I just started to sit and reflect. I began to sit and bring awareness to myself, because I had this kind of intuitive knowing that if I wanted to heal myself, I needed to know myself. So I began to sit and watch my thoughts and, watch my inner experience for about 5 minutes a day. And I had this thought that this relationship that I was in a relationship at the time, was a cause of a lot of my suffering. So I was blaming outside of me, like, for some of my suffering. Right. So I ended up moving out of the apartment we were in together, and we both mutually kind of broke up at that time. And I was sitting in my new place, and I was sitting on the edge of my seat and doing this self-reflective practice with myself. And I had this like insight that came from beyond my mind. And I found out later, the more I would do this, the more insights would come in. These more deeper realizations started to flow. And this realization was that I'm the problem. I was like, that's a problem, because I'm everywhere I am, right? And that I'm responsible for my reality. Even the surfboard hitting me in the head, that accident wasn't necessarily just an accident. Like, somehow I'm responsible for this. And in this moment, not everybody would agree with me with this, but this is the way I see reality, is that I'm taking radical responsibility from that moment forward, that I'm going to be totally responsible for everything that happens in my life. And I was no longer a victim to reality, like no longer living that kind of saying that life is against me, that life is for me, right? So moving forward, I started to feel better. I started to do this dive into more of these practices, meditation practices, learning about non-attachment, read on Eckhart Tolle, like getting into all the personal development, the books, and started EMDR therapy work. And EMDR therapy work is basically, the way I see it, it's bilateral stimulation of the left and right hemisphere of the brain. And it releases triggers in your body. So it releases trauma, helps you process past trauma. And through all this, I started to, dive into kind of self-love, like investigating it, getting curious about it. Like, what is self-love? Everyone tells me to love myself. You got to love yourself. And I was getting pissed off because I didn't know how to love myself, trying to approach it from this very scientific, logical standpoint, very masculine way of like, and then it was like, what self is loving the self? Like, what part of me is loving me? Like, this is strange. How many parts do I have in me? Right? That just doesn't make any sense, right? I just get so frustrated with this. Eventually, I started to realize, the more I got to know myself, it was like I was dating myself. I started seeing all these parts in me and personality types, and all these things going on in the background. And I started to get to know myself, and in getting to know myself, I began to love myself more. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but what people call vibration was beginning to raise. And what started happening, like this magic started to occur, which was pretty wild, because I know you're a science guy. I'm not saying I'm a scientist, but I'm more like on that. Like, I need proof. You got to prove it to me of whatever's going on. Right? I'm from the East Coast. When I tell people the story, I share that I come from Rhode Island, and where I'm from, not to pick on Rhode Islanders, but we're pretty stubborn. Right. So I'm not just going to believe something, it's not something that I take lightly. And all of a sudden these synchronicities started happening. These coincidences, or I like to call them synchronicities, or breadcrumbs from the universe. They started leading me to more people and places and experiences that were reflecting the reality of what I was learning and growing into. And eventually I started having this synchronicity where I was out and I met this guy, and I was telling him about my story, a little bit, what I've been going through with all these changes in life. And thought I should meet this woman named Lorraine. And I took her number. I was like, yeah, I'll meet her, whatever. And I started seeing this guy out everywhere, like at cafes, like events. Like I never saw this guy in my life. All of a sudden he's everywhere. And he would just lightly ask me, he was like, did you ever reach out to Lorraine? I was just, it's so strange. I'm like, this guy wants me to reach out to this woman. I see like Lorraine Street near me now. Like I didn't even know there was a street named Lorraine Street. There was like, this name was popping up all over, like in such strange ways. So eventually I got the message after about 20 times that I needed to go see this woman, Lorraine. And texted her. I didn't know what she did or how much she cost, but I ended up sitting in front of her house in my car, holding the steering wheel of my car. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why am I here? Like, I don't know what this lady costs. Like, this is so unlike me. Like, I was about to bail. She walks out of the house with somebody else, and somehow that kind of prompted me to go in. And she has this big smile on her face. She's very warm. Tells me to go inside and sit down. And I went into her office. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking around this room, and I'm like, what does this lady do? I just want to know what she does. That's all I really care about. And I'm like, what is this woman doing? There's a bed over here. There's some chairs. There's some strange stuff on. There's like pictures I didn't understand. There's crystals, like the kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right, maybe she's a therapist, a body worker. I don't know. She comes in. She asked me why I was here. And I just ramble. I just start talking for 5 minutes really quickly and just give her my whole life story, like everything. Didn't hold anything back. She's just kind of smiling, pleasantly looking at me. Doesn't interrupt at all, just pure presence and just kind of this warm presence about her. And after I'm done talking, after kind of spewing my whole life on her, she's like, we come into this world and we have these parents or caregivers and they do the best that they can, but they fuck up. And we have these defenses, these strategies that we use to protect ourselves when we feel overwhelmed as children. And they protect us from dying. They're actually survival strategies. Because our nervous system is not fully developed when we're younger. We need these strategies. And some people are lost in these strategies, don't even realize they're living in them. And she says, people are walking around, they're asleep. And they think they know what's going on, but they're actually like in the Matrix, she says, like the movie The Matrix, like Neo is inside the Matrix. He doesn't know he's in there and he can't be told what the Matrix is, but you can see it when you get pulled out. And in the background, I'm like still looking around this room, still trying to figure out what she does, kind of half listening to what she's saying. Because, that's just the way this inner voice in me was working at that time. I figured she was doing therapy work by then, though, with talking about defenses and strategies. And she tells me that I have this closed system, and she kind of puts her hand over her other hand. And well, she does put her hand over her other hand, and she says people are asleep, and they every once in a while they'll pop their head up here, and she's holding her hand up. She says it takes work to be up here. And she asked me in that moment if I want to know what it feels like to be up here. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. What are we doing? I was like, yeah. And in that moment, when I said yes to this woman, like right away, I started feeling something in my lower belly. Now I freaked out. I backed away from her. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Are you an angel? Are you an alien? Like I'm freaking out here. Because I start feeling something in my body when I say yes to this lady. This did not make I never felt anything like this. It didn't make sense to me. So I heard in the background, don't resist. Like this inner voice. Because I learned prior to this, like reading books on Eckhart Tolle, things like that, what you resist persists, right? So, and this inner voice was like surrender, kind of feeling into like surrendering into this experience. So I dropped into it. What I'm saying is I actually dropped my awareness and felt this experience in like the totality of it. And it was terror. So I felt terror in my lower belly. And all of a sudden, by feeling it, it dissolved. And I'll do the best that I can to describe what happened next. And in this moment, as it dissolved, I started feeling this energy. And it exploded up through the middle of my body and out my head. And in that moment, I felt everything everywhere. I felt the stars, the sky, the clouds, people, the planet, the ocean. And I felt love for the first time ever, and it poured through every cell of my being. And I knew in that moment that we are eternal. and that nothing matters and everything matters. And then we just started laughing. We started cracking up for about 15 minutes and just like two crazy people laughing. I walked out of there. My life has never been the same since. And I went home. I was wide-eyed, mouth wide open, big smile, like feeling this bliss everywhere, hearing these whispers. I can't even explain what those were. Felt energy everywhere. And in the background, I could see and feel this thing trying to tell me where to go and what to do. And it was my personality. It was my ego. And I was no longer fused to it or confused by it. And all there was this love that I was holding for it, just being love for that part of me. Synchronicities continued to be kicked up. And I was being led to more and more teachers and healers and people to help me stabilize what went on. Because after this happened, I started to really had pretty strange experiences where I'd see people's like faces change color. They were like melting before me. It was like I was on a psychedelic trip, and I had never done psychedelics. So I remember I called like SRF fellowship here in San Diego, like to try to find a monk or somebody that could tell me what's going on. Tried finding some scientists to try to tell me what's going on. Nobody can give me answers. And eventually that has led to like some teachers that understood like spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening, things like that. And they helped me to stabilize. And I've been continually on this path and refining and growing. I've been on this path for many years now. And, I've had so many deep realizations about energetics and, who and what I truly am, why I'm here, my purpose, like why I've come to this planet, and what I'm doing. And honestly, it's been magic. And sometimes it's still hard, but I haven't felt the level of suffering I once felt before that experience. And I've continued to learn how to integrate more and more of these parts and personalities. And I've been on this healing journey and this awakening journey combined together. And, I'm really supporting other people in that. And I sent a bunch of people to this woman, by the way, after nobody had the same experience. I was like trying to get people to have this experience because I was telling them all about this love that was everywhere. Most people thought I was like going crazy, actually. And my family thought I was joining a cult or something. I had my aunt and my mom call me together, which they never had ever called me together. And they were like, making sure I wasn't like suicidal, which is backwards because I felt love. And I felt joy for the first time ever, like this deep inner love in my being, which is so backwards. So the journey did continue. It got weirder, I'll be honest. And it was epic, wild, scary at times, so much fun. And it's still going.
Man, how did it get weirder? that was pretty weird.
Yeah, totally. So for me, again, where I come from, I didn't know any of these terms. I didn't know about awakening. Didn't know about spirituality. People call me spiritual. Sometimes I wear the spiritual jewelry to fit the part. That's cool. I wear the beads and stuff. But it's like, I wasn't into that, right? It wasn't something I was looking for. And energy, I could feel energy in people. Like I could feel like the flows in people. It's pretty amplified at this time. I could almost hear their thoughts and see like belief systems in them. And I started helping them and supporting them. Whoever would I'd be in conversations and things would come through me from like this, like deeper and wider and deeper intelligence that was outside of my human. And they would start crying or having these breakthroughs and emotions and experience. And it was like, I wasn't me doing it. It was like coming through me. I started waking up in the middle of the night, sweating and having these energy movements through my body. Like I'd wake up and do like yoga poses. Like the energy would move me. Like I was possessed, it felt like, but it wasn't a possession. It wasn't like, it was like this flow, like releasing tension and trauma through my body. I started having these deep realizations that my personality and my level of intelligence as a human being wouldn't understand about the universe, like these understandings about planets, connections, and how, just like things about the human collective and species that I would have trouble now to kind of tap into. But at that time, I was so wide open and just having just these out there insights that were so cool. I would see, this gets really strange, but I'd see like things all around me, like energetically. People might use words like energetic beings or entities. I would literally see these things all around. That's why I actually thought I was going crazy for a while. Like my personality started to come back in, and I literally thought I was like having a like schizophrenic kind of breakdown, or I started like seeing people's faces change in front of me. Now this was strange. Like what? Like like morphing and changing. I started to map like this, I was grounded enough in reality where I started to map it out that when someone would feel something, I'd see a different face and it would relate to an energy in their body or emotion in their body. It started to map these things out and use them in ways that were more supportive to actually use these, what I call like gifts at this time. Before it felt like a curse maybe a little bit. And also it was exciting and strange because like literally reality looked like it was melting before me. Now these things are out there. And for some, I started to understand that people have these experiences on like maybe some medicine journeys, or people have these experiences that are really like deeply in meditative states. I was just blown so wide open. I had such an amplified kind of explosion of what people call an awakening. It doesn't have to be that way. And I don't always recommend it because it's highly disruptive. Like it can be disruptive. Like I had to figure out how to make money. I had to figure out how to get my life back because I was on disability, didn't have any more money. I was trying to figure out how to, pay rent, pay for things. Right. And at this time, while I see things melting around me. So it continued to get stranger and stranger from there.
Yeah. So you've had a traumatic brain injury.
Yes.
Your loved ones are worried that you're suicidal and in a cult.
And had brain damage. They thought I had brain damage.
And had brain damage.
Yeah.
You're going about your normal life seeing energetic goblins, and you're talking to people and like their faces are melting and changing colors and shit.
Yeah.
All the while you're like, I need to pay rent, I need to eat. And I'm like, how old were you? Like in your 30s, 20s?
33? I think it was 33.
Yeah. And so you've got like the rest of your life to sort out.
Oh yeah, totally.
I imagine that I feel like that would be very scary. It's like, is that fair? Did you feel scared, or was it like?
Here's what's interesting. It was at times, but at that time I was still deeply connected to a place in me that, like the synchronicities, there was a trust, there was also a knowing that everything that was happening in that moment was supposed to happen. Because it did happen and it was supposed to happen. And I was continually surrendering into some of these places that if my personality was driving the ship at that time, wouldn't have did it. I would have never done this. Like it was a deep place of trust and love and knowing that I was on the right path. And in the background, my personality and the ego was still there trying to tell me not to do things or what to do and where to go. But I was no longer like fused deeply into it. I was no longer lost in it. It was like somehow this consciousness was no longer confused as it. So it came outside of it and was like holding the personality in care and love. And eventually I started working with parts of the personality, parts of the ego to integrate those parts, especially if they continued to hijack me. But more and more I started surrendering, and everything started to work itself out when I followed the energy, when I followed the deepest inner core of my being.
It sounds like you turned yourself completely inside out. So rather than the ego driving everything with a little hint of consciousness on the side, it was like, no, we're going to swap seats. And also you're in a Ferrari now and you don't know how to drive.
That's right. I had no idea how to drive the Ferrari.
But you're like, this feels exciting. Here we go.
Yeah, that's right. And I was led to like just wild experiences that kept teaching me. I was learning, like I'd have an experience and then I would be taught somehow. I get a book or read something or be sent somebody that would teach me about the experience. So I was in the territory before I got the map. Like there was like an experience maybe about 4 months after this blowout experience I had, where I ended up in Australia and I was led to a healer. His name's the Love King, which how epic is that, right? I'm in the Love King's basement and it's like this like random shop that again, my personality would never go into. I had no phone. I didn't know like anything about this guy. I just knew I had to be there. And it's like, there's strange pictures on the wall again. And there's like smells that I don't understand in this place. There was like wigs everywhere too, which made it like extra creepy. And at this time, I didn't know there was a shop though that they help cancer patients, which was so beautiful, so cool. But at that time, I'm like in a foreign country, no phone. I knew I had to be in this guy's basement. My personality is like, what are you doing? This guy's going to kill you. Like, why are you here? Yeah. And I just knew I had to be there. And then he's touching my left arm and he's telling me about all these past lives. I didn't know anything about past lives. He's telling me about like, there's stuck emotion in my shoulder and he's just kind of feeling me up, just kind of rubbing my shoulder. And he's got a towel on his shoulder, like a waiter with a towel on their shoulder. And he's telling me lots of stuck emotion in my arm. And he turns his head and he roars like really loud, like a lion. He just roars, and I just start laughing because I didn't know what else to do. Like the comedian in me is like, "You're gonna get eaten. Like this is not gonna go well." And it's also really funny. And again, he turns his head and goes, roars like a lion, like so loud. And I stopped laughing because I felt this fire flow through my body and out my left shoulder, out my hand, through my arm. And he didn't know it because I didn't tell him anything about me. But on that shoulder, I had surgery many years ago. And when I was in surgery, my father actually died when I was in surgery. So I came out and I found out he had died. It was unexpected. It was a total unexpected death. Now that surgery, though, actually, I went to the city where he lived to do the surgery, in which I'm not really in that city. So I got to spend the night before he had died because I had that surgery. So it was really beautiful. I got to spend the last night with him. So it was like such a blessing. And at this time, when I came out and found out he had passed away, my arm, like I never got a chance to do the physical therapy. So it never really healed. Mm-hmm. And before that, I had struggled sleeping on it. And I just had all this pain most of my life in it. And I leave this guy's, shop, and I end up, for the first time ever, being able to sleep on that shoulder. Now, this guy did what Western medicine couldn't, like took away the pain, supported me in releasing this pain, telling me there's stuck emotion that he released. And he's wiping tears from his eyes after he was yelling, by the way, like he was crying and emotion was coming through him. And now I can sleep on this arm. It's been better than it's ever been ever since that moment. So for me, this is another like deep realization, understanding about energy in the body, stuck emotion in the body. And I began to learn about this and understand this, how we have all these energies that we don't realize that are stored inside the body, in our energy field, that are generating our reality, that are creating the external, like the inner is creating the outer. And I started to have that realization, understanding that as I felt better and I released more of these energies and stuck emotion, that my outer experience got better. Money started showing up, people started showing up. And organically, I started to grow this practice that is currently what I'm doing today. It was all without, I would say it was all divinely guided, like truly was. And through these experiences, again, I kept meeting these amazing people like this healer, like the Love King. And my personality would have never been there, would never went into this guy's house or shop and did this work with him.
Yeah. Wow. So, God, man, I have a million questions for you. What is your, like, how does the universe work? Like from your, like from your perspective, living all of those things and being deeply embodied in the energetic field and like having transformations and like seeing faces melt, like what is going on? Like, how do you describe life? I know that's a very ridiculously broad question. But I love it. Like, what the fuck is going on, Andrew? Like,
that's so good. I love the question. If I could answer that fully, like, I mean, that would be really interesting. So I can share with you what I'm getting from your question, what comes through me in a way of just kind of like how I feel of what I've realized and what I've noticed through my experience.
Yeah. And perhaps like a baby step towards that question is like, when you talk about energetics, like, what is that? Because you hear it all the time in the personal development space.
Sure.
Like he's got good vibes, or you need to raise your vibe, or the law of attraction is like, just manifest some abundance, man. And it's like, what do you actually think is at the root of all of that stuff?
I think it's a beautiful question. I feel you on that. For me, I said it earlier, like the inner is generating the outer. And what I've realized is if I focus, I usually say like 70-30 or 80-20, like 80% in or 70% inward on well-being, on integrating past experiences, releasing trauma, stabilizing like higher states of mind within my reality, operating from deep presence and care. not only operating from deep presence, but once you arrive in presence, being with these experiences so you can generate more and more well-being and encode well-being in the body. Because what you put out is what you're getting back. And that's how I see it. So the way I see this reality, this earth plane or this reality here operating is that if you know how to, like, like these people, like you said, people are saying, raise your vibe. And if you know how to really work with your energies and you truly dedicate yourself to this and you go beyond the mind and you include the mind as a tool and you work with the mind and no longer let it own you and hijack you, that you operate from a deeper core of your being. And in that there's love, there's intelligence, and it can teach you how to generate more and more well-being in your body and your life, and your reality will literally start working itself out. So for me, I had it backwards. I was operating where I was focused all my energy outward, my attention outward, and my focus was outward. So as I started to release pain in the body, I started to integrate more and more of these practices. I did start to do that thing where you raise your vibration, and I felt joy, I felt gratitude. Like authentically. It wasn't like I was doing a gratitude practice from the mind to do gratitude. I was deeply connecting with my inner core, shifting beyond my mind, like knowing actually you can shift outside of the mind because it's just one level of the field, of this energy experience. And you can actually shift into other levels of the field where you can really work with these parts of you so you can integrate them, stabilize them. So for me, everything is energy. And if you're not aware of what you're putting out, like what's the intention behind your action? What's the energy behind the action? Like what's the agenda? How are you creating? How are you showing up? Like for me in this podcast, I'm dedicated to be of service. I want to add value. I want to offer information or my story that might inspire others to really take care of themselves or find something within them that they can support and just love on a deeper level. So before I show up here, I deeply connect with myself. I'm not scattered before I show up in this session here with you, this podcast. I really want to deeply connect with you here and honor your time, honor my time, and deep down my intentions to be of service. So what kind of energy am I bringing in here? I feel connected. I feel flows of energy in the body. I feel warmth. I feel as I'm naming this with you here right now, I actually feel your heart opening a little more and my heart opening a little more. Like as I'm naming this stuff, I felt you just check that as I said that, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. You can tell me if I'm right. Like I could just feel and track the flows between us, and I feel more present as I'm naming this with you. And I'm feeling you on a deeper level all of a sudden as I'm naming this, as I'm dropping deeper into presence, right? So right now I'm starting to feel like a higher vibe in my system, a warmth in my system, energy in my system. And I've learned how to generate more of this and cultivate more of this and stabilize more well-being in my life by stabilizing it within me. So, focusing inward, focusing on the energy, and also taking action. When I take action in that 20% or 30%, I take massive action, but efficient action from a stabilized place of well-being. And I'm not always perfect with it. I'm not always on point with it. I just do the best that I can. I love the parts of myself that may not do that. So for me, that's what really matters, because am I polluting the collective with fear, or am I bringing love into the collective by operating in it from love and acting from love, from within my body, from within my core, not avoiding, not distracting, but being deeply connected to my inner being, feeling you, feeling me, being here right now, like that. I can't tell you how the universe works, but that's what I felt like it came through me here to share.
Yeah. I mean, that's how your universe works, perhaps is a more accurate description, it sounds like.
I see it with others though.
Okay.
I do. I see it with others when they focus on their energy and they work with their parts and they encode more well-being. I see it all the time. Life gets easier and there's less of a struggle and more things to work themselves out.
Do you mind expanding on that idea? So, for example, people have issues, struggles, obstacles, challenges, etc., that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's up here in our brains that we try to go to, right? It's like, how can I fix this? How, why, this understanding. And it sounds like from what you're describing, there's a deeper detour, like with directly to the root of what's going on. you shift that a little bit, and then goes back out and resolves itself in a different way. Is that fair?
Yeah, I feel that's a beautiful description. Absolutely. And I love your question. I like that Einstein quote, you can't fix a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it, right? You ever heard that quote before?
Yeah, and like insanity's doing the same thing and hoping for different results. Isn't
Totally.
one of his that I like?
Yeah. So when we work, go ahead. Yeah.
No, please.
So when we're working and working from our mind, it's like there's some things that get done, and it's kind of like dredging along, in my opinion, right? It's also trying to look at, like, looking at the back of your head, looking at the mind from the mind. It's filtered, so it's not really clear and clean, right? And when we're in a part, or we're in a process and we're dysregulated, meaning we have overwhelm in our body and our nervous system, we're not feeling safe and we're not feeling grounded. And typically we're contracted and information is not processing. We're energy systems, right? So if we can learn how to be in the body and encode safety and come out of fight, flight, freeze by feeling safe and relaxed in the body, right there, we're shifting our vibration, and we can then begin to regulate. So if we can't get out of if we're in a dysregulated state, we need to find a regulated state to do this work. So a lot of people, in my opinion, might be dysregulated trying to do this work. And it's like, stop trying to climb up the mountain with like boulders on your shoulders. Like, take a moment, learn how to regulate. And if you can't, find support with someone you could co-regulate with, that can hold presence for you and space with you to support you into a regulated state. So then you can begin to open back to the energy flows, to become aware of what's there, to unnumb or release, like what I call icebergs in the body. Like, we're frozen and the icebergs want to melt back into the water. So just by doing that, we begin to process by being in a regulated state with someone, or if we can learn to do it, like self-regulate by ourselves, but typically we might need another. Once we begin to do that, we find safety and energy begins to flow again. Then we can be with the direct experience. Instead of trying to figure out why this happened to me or what's happening from the mind, we could be in the flows of the experience and the energy or the emotion, and it processes. And once it resolves, we can get deep insight and clarity. And then we can start to act different in our world. So in our everyday life, like, we could, it's like, instead of behaviorally trying to create behavior shifts, we're creating, we're processing information and energy in the body. So we have deeper realizations of what we need to know to shift our life. And in the processing of the energy in the body, somehow life starts to show up differently at times. You could literally process energy in the body, and all of a sudden reality just changes. This has happened many times to me and many times to people that I work with, where the problem no longer exists, or we're no longer triggered by somebody, or no longer lost in judgment. So there's a way to actually learn to shift, and safety is part of that. There's also ways to learn how to shift into different levels of mind, like subtle mind, subtle body, which you can feel energy, experience energy. Anybody can learn this. And then even wider states, awake states that you can shift into. If you have the right practices and the right pointers, you can learn to stabilize these states where it's just clarity and knowing are working with these parts of ourself. It's not the mind working with mind, but it's like the mind of God working with the parts of mind. Does that make sense? There's a lot there. So I'm kind of going off on a few different things here. So hopefully that lands.
You're good, man. I really appreciate the perspective about needing to be regulated, needing to feel safe before attempting to address a concern that's ongoing in your life, right? Yeah. And kind of the visual I imagined was like, say your partner's like running from a fiery car that's like in an emergency, and you're like, hey, what do you want to do for dinner? It's like, no, I can't right now. I can't do that. Like, this is not the right time, not the right place. Or like a toddler having a temper tantrum. It's like, hey, what do you want for your birthday? Like, no, it doesn't align. And I think individual, like for myself, from my personal experience and like working with people and seeing the state of the world, I feel like most of us, perhaps that's a sweeping generalization, but like most of us don't fully understand what it feels like to be in a regulated nervous system that's completely safe and grounded.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I would have to agree. Yeah. It's not only the times we're in, but this has been common where people are living in a lot of dysregulation, and what we call an average kind of stable state is not even stable. I thought it was until I started to deepen into this work and encode more and more well-being, where I feel more and more regulated. I was surprised how much more relaxed I can be, how much tension melts out of my body when I just sit down, how much flow I feel in the body, how much warmth I feel in the body. One of the teachers I work with, he's an attachment therapist, and he's like 72, and he's done attachment work, working on the human attachment system to heal that, which is related to attachment styles and things like that. And I've worked with him for years, mentoring and learning his modality and offering it to others. And he sat with people most of his life. So he has a lot of research, and he's a trained psychotherapist, and he's a genius at attachment. And he encoded so many, he understood so many things. Like one thing he would always say is that when you feel warmth in your body, it's a high level of well-being. He started to notice this with people that were really healing their attachment system, feeling safe and secure on the planet, and having healthy relationships, that warmth would show up. And I started feeling it a few years back, and I got what he was saying. Like, this warmth literally generates in the body, and it's like this like blissful warmth, like somatic feeling in the belly, and it flows through the body. Just, you feel like everything is okay. The world is okay. I'm okay. And you just feel secure on this planet. And like this warmth is like this flow that I didn't even know you could feel. And like before doing this work, my body was numb. I was frozen. I was in tension, chronic anxiety. And like my body was always hurting, headaches all the time. Right. It was like, I didn't know you could actually feel good in a human body. And most people, and again, it's like you said, general sweeping, like a generalization kind of, sweeping comment there. But I agree. Most people I see all around me, they're in heightened states of anxiety, and they're lost and confused in what they think is them, their mind or their stories or their defenses. And they're not. That's not who they are. There's more to it. And they can't be told who you are. You cannot be told who you are. It's a realization we all can have. And finding a ground and finding safety and finding ease in the body is one beautiful doorway to deeply connect with this intuitive intelligence, this divine intelligence that created this universe, to be the guide. So you can dance with the divine instead of trying to do it all yourself, because you don't have to. Yeah.
Your story reminded me of a knife, if I may have a brief tangent. So my birthday was a couple months ago. My partner got me a very nice, fancy Japanese-made bread knife. And it is the sharpest fucking thing I've ever seen. Like, I made a loaf of bread, I cut through it, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I was smiling. I was like, I'm cutting a piece of bread and I'm smiling. It's like, it's so sharp that it's freaking me out. And I was like, just holding it up in the air. I'm like, look at this. This is incredible, right? And then the next day, I sat down to like write a post about it. I was reflecting on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this knife has completely blown apart what I thought was sharp. It's like head and shoulders above. It's a new level of sharpness. And I was thinking, God, I wonder what else is out there that's equivalent to that. Like, what if like my level of love that I have with my partner is like old sharp? Or like my regulated nervous system is like old sharp. And there's like a completely different way of doing it. And I got so intrigued by that. Like, what's possible out there?
Yeah, I love that story.
Like, until that moment, I'd never realized that you could cut something with a smile on your face. And
totally.
We watched this documentary, man. And then I promise I'll let you talk again, because you're
no, this is great. This is a beautiful story.
So then I live with this like Japanese ninja queen, and she's like, let's watch a documentary about making knives in Japan. And I was like, okay. So we're watching this thing on YouTube, and like they're these ancient experts, and one of the guys was like, you should enjoy using your knife. I was like, I was like, what? I've never even pondered that idea. Like, it used to be just a knife. And now I'm like looking at everything like this, like, what if this t-shirt that I'm wearing, like, should I smile when I put on a t-shirt? Like, when I put on socks, should I smile because they're so great? Like, what's the level of sock that I can touch?
Yeah. This is amazing. I love it. It's so beautiful. I love your share. Yeah. I like this. I have this image of you cutting the bread, and just the first time you cut into it with that knife, just feeling the clear cutting of the slice, just feeling it go through, and just how it just kind of blew your reality open of like, this can be easier. This could be joyful. Like, wow.
Yes.
Like I didn't realize how good knives can feel. Right. And that's such a amazing story, because I've had a realization similar to this. Like it's so good, because I felt the same way. I had that smile on my face. Right. So I know that smile. Like I know the depth of that joy and smile. I could feel it on you. I'm getting excited for you. There's a story where it's like that I have that I was when was actually I wrote this. I have a book. I wrote this in the book. The chapter is I think it's from pain being and pain doing to well-being and well-doing. So this chapter is about well-being and generating more well-being inside, but also doing this, what you just said, finding places in reality where you can make the external reality more easeful and more joyful. And there's people that pay attention to detail and put a lot of love into things are actually, generating a field in like products or items that can bring more joy. And when they're well made, like this knife, you feel it, you experience it. And I had a suitcase when I was in the airport, those little roller suitcases you throw overhead. And I'm just dragging this thing along. The wheels are struggling. And it kind of doesn't go straight, kind of wobbles, shaky. It's like dirty. I've had this suitcase forever. And I'm just like, I remember, after this experience of what I've been on this journey, I remember thinking to myself, what am I doing with this suitcase? Like, and this is a few years after, and I started making money. I started like calling in finances. I did a lot of work on my finances, but somehow some old habits were there where I wouldn't buy myself some things like conveniences or things that would upgrade my life. And I'm like, I'm going to get a suitcase. I'm going to figure out where I'm going to go. That's going to be like, where's an expensive suitcase? So I was like, I ended up at Bloomingdale's. I'm in Bloomingdale's, like looking, like I never buy anything in this, like the home goods section of a department store in a mall. Like, it's like, this is like the first time I'm in here, and like the prices are like $800, $1,000 for like these like roller suitcases. I'm rolling them around. I'm like, these are glorious. Like these are like rolling around like on butter. Like they're so smooth. And I'm like, I hop in one, I kind of ride it. It just keeps going. It doesn't stop. The wheels are well made. The suitcase is well made. The handle, the grip, they put detail in the grip. How you hold it, and how your experiences of like holding the grip. Like I didn't know the grip can feel good. Now this is awesome. So I narrowed down to 2 suitcases, and I have these 2 before me, and I finally chose one. And I end up choosing one without realizing it, one that's on sale for like $120. And it was epic because this is a high-end suitcase and it's amazing. Now I'm in the airport. I'm on a trip after I bought it, and I'm rolling around in the suitcase. I'm on cloud 9. Like this thing was easy to pack, easy to close. And it was so smooth as it went through the airport. And I'm just smiling. My partner, my love's there with me. She's watching me. I'm just enjoying. It looks like I'm on an ice skating ring, just skating around and just flowing. And this is ridiculous. I was enjoying it so much. And I realized from that moment on, I was like, you can bring beautiful products in your life that people put intention into and detail and have way more joy. And going forward, I continue to look at places in my life where I can generate more well-being in my environment and in my life by investing, some of my abundance into that. And I did buy some knives as well, by the way. I did get a sharp set of knives at some point, and I love the knives that are sharp. Yeah. So yeah, I can relate to your experience.
Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize for those listening that this applies to relationships, jobs,
right,
where you live, how you work, what your car looks like. Like it's all of it, man. It's like it's an energy. Like, listen to me talking to the energy guy. It's an energy. Do you know what I mean? Right? It's like, it really helped me to put on a different set of lenses to view my day-to-day experience.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah. It helped me to understand different levels of possibility, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you made a point that I just want to hit on really quick about the nervous system. So most people, in my opinion, again, they are moving around in this, they're driving a Ferrari, but they're driving it as like a Volkswagen Bug from like the 60s that, nothing against the Volkswagen Bug, but it's like old and outdated, and it's like they're trugging along. You can always shift your nervous systems. Every moment it's learning and growing. And what are you feeding into your nervous system? Like in polyvagal theory, this, like Stephen Porges talks about this, and like every moment shapes your nervous system, literally every moment. So what are you feeding it every moment? Like, how do you continue to move the baseline to more and more ease and well-being? And you can dedicate practices to that, and dedicate certain times of your day to that. And over time, you start to shift your baseline, and you'll feel the depth of what your nervous system can bring, which is balance and joy and easefulness when it's in a regulated state. So I just wanted to kind of hit on that because you made that point earlier about the nervous system.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Are there specific books, practices, things where you're like, to anybody listening right now, it's like, okay, I'm still listening, I'm intrigued, I want to sharpen the knife of my energy. What do you recommend for people in terms of beginning the path, continuing the path, etc.?
Yeah. So for anybody we didn't lose around the time that people's faces were melting.
Yeah.
Thanks for staying.
Yeah. And if you've made it through my bread story, like we got to throw you some information here.
We got some sponsors coming in for knives, right?
I'm going to send an email after this.
That's funny.
Actually, that's a good idea.
Yeah, some Japanese knife.
Yeah.
So there's a few books I recommend to everybody. So there's I like maps of the territory, so we can get into the territory. One of the maps I recommend for people is understanding their personality, character structures. And Stephen Kessler wrote a book called The 5 Personality Patterns. Now, this talks about your defensive strategies that you're using and safety strategies. It's an epic read. Everybody that I work with, I have them read this book. Everybody says the same thing, how amazing this book is. It's a must read. It helps you understand your typology, and helps you understand how to get back into presence and what you can look at that you need to work on energetically, and where you need to focus on your healing trajectory. So you can set up like your healing structures in your life of who to work with and where to go to release these patterns, so they're no longer generating a reality of suffering. Because most people are living in these patterns and not realizing it. They have no idea. And this will shine the light on that. And more importantly, will support you getting back into a present state. That book's fantastic. For practices, one very simple practice I've been doing for years is watching my breath, becoming aware of the inhales and exhales while I talk to somebody, while I'm driving. I think I heard Eckhart Tolle say this once, and I took it serious. Like, I really dedicated to every moment watching my breath. And when I toggle or forget, come back, because it begins to widen the gaps of space and presence outside of your mind. So you're retraining your system to be more present. I can feel you doing it right now, right? Just watching your breath. And every time you do that, I feel more energy, and you're turning the light toward yourself. You're circulating the light inward, and you're owning your attention and your energy when you do that. So if you don't own your body, you don't own your intention, somebody else will. Someone will own your intention, right? So if you're not in your power, you're giving away your power. So watching your breath allows you to get more in the body. And like I said, I took it serious when I heard Eckhart Tolle say this, and I did it for a few years. One of the most epic things you can do is watch your breath. Very simple, low-cost practice that is always available for you. So I dedicated myself to that, life-changing, for real. Very, very life-changing. I always say start slow with what people call meditation practice. Just sit 5 minutes a day if you don't have a practice. Eventually it becomes a practice. Eventually it becomes an integrated behavior, and you're meditating all the time. Meditation is not a practice. It becomes a state. Then you're a non-meditation. There's like non-meditation meditation practices. It gets really interesting. But go easy on yourself with these practices if you're new or beginning.
Yeah, it's interesting. It almost flips, right? Whereby I keep track of how often and how long I meditate, versus if you're in a meditative state, you might notice when you're not meditating.
That's right.
You might keep track of that. Like, oh, I wasn't meditating a lot today. Something's going on.
Yeah. Nice.
That's interesting.
Yeah. The more you do this, the more you're training your nervous system. And if you're bumping up against something that is stressful or anxiety, or if you begin to loop, because if we're not aware, we can loop in reenactment, meaning we can loop in trauma, or we can loop in story, or loop in pain. So we might need somebody to direct us and show us, or we might be looping, or we might need to do some healing work with somebody. We're a species that needs connection. We need each other. Whether I tried so many times not to need people, but we need people. Like, we are truly a species that need others. And information is really, it spreads really fast between us and moves really quick if we're in like grounded states and regulated states. So when you're doing work with other people, it's more amplified and it gets you there faster. So find people that can be supportive, especially if things are coming up in meditation or practices that we're looping in, and get the right pointers so we feel like we're on the right track. So we're doing right practices where we're not just sitting and looping in pain all the time. We don't want to amplify pain if we don't have to. It's like we're told to feel, right? Feel the pain, feel the process it, feel the emotion. But we can get too lost in processing, and we can get too lost in feeling. Some people can overprocess and overfeel. And then some people could be too lost in disassociation and not feeling, too much space. There's a happy medium, like being right in the middle way of like just enough processing so it resolves, and enough space. And that's kind of a skill set energetically you can learn, but someone can support people in that. So working with people, I always highly recommend that. Absolutely.
It's like the Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold. Like, you want that just right spot.
That's right. Exactly. You got it.
Well, man, you're a fucking fascinating human being.
I appreciate it.
No, man, I really appreciate your time and energy and all you have to offer. I'm conscious of time and that I could happily pick your brain for another hour or two. But any parting words for people? Anything that you desire to communicate, or is there a place that they can find you? I know you mentioned a book, and I can put a link to that in the show notes. Anything else?
Yeah, just keep going. Like, really, really, truly keep going. Like, there's a lot of support for you, like on the planet and off the planet. Like, wherever you're going through, whatever's happening, you are truly deeply loved. And at times we might not feel that, but you are deeply, deeply cared for and loved. So, to find me, my website, like, I don't have a lot of social media. I built a lot of stuff without social media, like my practice and everything I'm doing. It all organically came. So I do have like an Instagram, but I don't really use it that much. You can find me on my website, andrewdegregorio.com. You can put a link because the last name's kind of long. I have a book on Amazon called The Knock. It's the Unexpected Wake Up Call. It's a conversational book that I wrote with William Gladstone. He's an agent that we connected, and he asked me to write a book with him. And he worked with like Eckhart Tolle and other teachers and amazing healers. And him and I just jammed out, did a conversational book. So I tell my story. It's a lot of beautiful like information weaved in. That's the other book recommendation I always recommend is my book. Yeah.
It's fair, man. You wrote it. You're proud of it. And you think it can help.
I think it can. I believe it truly can.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you again, brother. Appreciate you. Hope to see you in real life one day. And thanks for all you do, man.
I appreciate it, Jeremy. It's an honor, truly honor to be here with you, and you're epic, man. So thank you for having me.
So that was interesting, right? Dude is operating on an entirely different plane than most human beings. And what a treat it was to hear his story and to hear his progress and his journey, the pathway from nearly drowning in the ocean to being a fulfilled intuitive counselor who works with a lot of really badass human beings. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the 5-star reviews and subscribing and spreading the word. It helps me to get the word out into the world. It helps me book guests. It helps to just raise the vibe, trying to enhance the energy of the collective, trying to make compassion commonplace and kindness cool. And I appreciate you being here and contributing. And also, if you are looking for things to do over New Year's, I'm hosting a retreat with 2 friends in Costa Rica. Hit me up about that. We've still got some spaces, and it's going to be magical. So if you're looking for a way to jumpstart 2022 hit me up. We can go hang out together for a week. All right, that's it. I appreciate you. I adore you. I love you. Thanks for being here, and I will talk to you soon.